Here we are in the Digest app, and I want to show you a couple of things here that are really important and the way the Digest now currently works. It's just an amazing difference in the way it used to be. It used to be that you would just have these cards, and the cards would just be whatever you clipped. And then when you went into that card, you would have your handwritten text. That's what the Digest was. It was still really cool. It was pretty useful. You didn't really have anything you could do with the Digest after that. But now in the app, you can look over here, you can import any text you want into the Digest. So if you have a text file, so maybe you've copied something, maybe you've got a markdown file that you want to pull in, you can pull that text directly into the Digest by going here. And then you'll see you have all these different places you can go. You can create new categories on the fly, which is really cool. So I can create these new categories you see over here. One of the things I've been struggling with the most, quite frankly, is how to think about the categories. And you'll notice I thought about them in a couple of different ways here. One of the things that was an Easter egg in the current iteration of the Digest was this idea of quotes. So you have your screensaver, and then you can enable what's called a quote carousel. And on the carousel, you can basically create a quotes category, and you'll see it even gives it a little quotes icon. And now all of these, I just went to the web, I copied, I pasted, and I added in the quotes. So it's under the quotes category. This is a Bill Gates quote, one of my favorite quotes, by the way, about the multiplier effect of technology. And if you're inefficient, you're going to be even more inefficient if you just apply technology to a broken process versus if you apply technology to a good process, you're going to be much more efficient. So, and here you'll notice I have all of the same functions as I'm going to have on any other annotation, but this text right here is what goes onto that quote carousel on your home screen, and it puts the author name down below and goes ahead and italicizes this. It's just a nice, cool function, and you can move that anywhere on the screen. You can resize it. You can make it full length. You can do a lot of different things with it, and that's pretty cool. But if I ever wanted to go back and annotate these quotes, I could always do that. And what's really nice is now that I'm in here, I could say, this is one of my favorite quotes, and it really is. So now there's my quote, and it now has this annotation that's going to sync across to all of my devices. And if I ever want to pull this quote into a note, I can do that. So it's just a really nice way to be able to update things. On the manual entry, you'll notice another thing that you can do is edit the actual quote, because if it's a manual entry, if you're not pulling it directly from a book, then you get the ability to edit that text, pare it down, change it, make it work differently. If you're pulling a direct quote from a book, they don't want you to be able to edit that source for good reason, because you're then changing the author's words from something that is in a book or a text resource. I don't know how they could avoid you doing a copy paste like this, but that's just your own integrity then to not change Bill Gates' words. Now you may add something else in here, but I really think they made a good decision to make manual entries able to be edited and automatic entries from EPUBs and PDFs to be static. Personal preference, but I think that's pretty cool. And then, of course, if I ever wanted to go in on the Supernote and handwrite some things, that would be in here as well. So a pretty cool feature. And as you can see, these are all of the quotes that refresh. Now, that's one way of thinking about things. Quotes. These are quotes. They can be from anywhere. Another way to think about it is, okay, what about leadership? And what about different quotes about leadership? And you'll notice here I have things from a dissertation, from what's called the Leadership Practices Inventory in one of the courses I teach. And also we have things from Your Spectrum of Thought, which J.B. Glossinger had. And you'll notice I accidentally didn't highlight this correctly, so I may go back at one point and change that. But here I can put in J.B. Glossinger, and now he'll get credit for that. Now, one thing at first I thought was kind of difficult or weird was, you'll notice I put Aristotle in. And the interesting part here is they make you do that for each resource. And at first I thought that was a little clunky and a little weird. But then I got to thinking about it from a research standpoint. What if I'm in an edited text? So what if I'm in a large book on leadership, a collection of leadership essays? I may want to draw from the same PDF or EPUB or other type of a book, Amazon Kindle, whatever you have, and be able to pull in those different things from those different articles and change up the author, and maybe even put in multiple authors. What that does is it forces you to think about how often you're doing that. Now, what gets in the way is this is all Aristotle. So every time having to add in Aristotle is a little bit more difficult, because why should I have to enter that maybe 50 times while I'm doing this? I don't know that there's a good solution to that. Maybe they have, an author or multiple authors, but that's for down the line. It's just interesting to me. So that's something that's a little bit different. But back to this idea of ways of thinking. So, for example, I have science fiction classics, I have work, which is one way of thinking about everything I do related to work, and having that all under this one digest. And then when we go to export here in a minute, I'll show you kind of how that looks in the exported form. But, so let's say that's one way of thinking about it. Or you could do something like this, which is monthly recaps. And don't worry, I'll blur out some names here when we go to do this video. But the idea that all of these are going to fit in the monthly recap, which is a standing meeting I have all year long with one person, with my boss, and maybe I just create a category called monthly recap. I add in our notes and basically my agenda items as different digest entries, and then I click on that digest entry, I take my handwritten notes, I can go back later and add in typed notes. A lot of different really cool things that you can do to make this work better. And so that's just a different way of thinking about it. I'm not 100% settled on how I'm going to do it because of the fact that you can do so much with this. I want to show you the export function. So for something, let's see if there's one that I have some handwriting on. So that this one I do, this one I do, and this one I do, but that's all. Let's try it this way. So this one, let's go, and I've got some handwriting here, and these are multiples. So that's one reason I like this idea of multiple things in a category instead of one meeting. But at the same time, if that meeting has multiple parts, it makes a lot of sense. For this, though, you can see I've got Machiavelli, I've got some Poe, and I've gone ahead and put Edgar Allan Poe in here, and there are some annotations. Now, what's really neat about this is I can select all of these. I may be able to do a shift. Well, okay, so yeah, let's do that. So select here, and we'll go shift, and then we'll click, and that'll select all. Now, if I right-click on this, I can export. Now, I can choose to do two things. If I just want the text itself, so if I just want all of the highlighted passages to be in one thing, I can just highlight that and not have anything else I need to do. However, if I want to see the highlights, the annotations, both text and handwritten, I can do it as a PDF. And when I do, you'll see it's going to ask me where. So we're going to go ahead to this, and let's just go to My Drive, and we are going to do, let's just put it straight into the main My Drive folder. And I select that. It's going to export that. And what's really cool is the way Supernote saves is that it then gives you local access back to that file. So now you'll notice it went to H My Drive Classics PDF. I can open the file straight from here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and open that file, and you'll see there's classics. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to close this out. Now, here's what's really awesome about this. And I don't know, I know Books has a powerful piece of software built into the Neo reader, but this specific thing is just so different. I'm not saying it's better yet, but it's different. So you get Machiavelli, Volume 1 EPUB, what page it came from, who the author was, and then you come down here, you get your quote, you get your annotations, and again, Cask of Amontillado, Edgar Allan Poe. No annotations on, or actually it skipped to the next page. So annotations there, trying to see if there are any that have typewritten annotations on this particular thing. And I don't know that there are. I don't know if I tested any this way, but if there were, the annotations would show up with both text and with the handwritten. Let's go into this test. So I was doing a digest function test, and you'll notice over here, and I haven't reformatted this, but I probably would. I basically scanned a pamphlet about what's called cold agglutinin disease and downloaded all of that directly into the digest as just straight text. Now that was done with OCR, so I do need to go back and clean that up. But the idea, again, being that it was a manual entry, so I can do that. And then you'll see I added text and handwriting here. But let's go ahead and we will do that same process here, and we will go ahead and say export, and this one should take a lot less time to export. And then we'll say straight to my drive again. And of course, much less text. And we'll say open file path, and we'll do digest function test. We open this up and you'll see now that this is a quote from James McBride, and I probably should have put, since it was manual entry because I pulled it from Kindle, probably should figure out how to, and I can actually manually edit that. So I could put in here that this is from the Heaven and Earth grocery store. So again, I probably, since it was a manual entry, I could go in and change out manual entry or add at the top the Heaven and Earth grocery store, which is, this is the book. But again, there's James McBride as the author. You can see there's a few things that you would have to change in the digest to make it work. But here are some text annotations. You know, who is Nate? Why is he drinking? What are the consequences? And then you go down, and then here are the handwritten annotations. And then again, you'll go down and you'll see here are some other things that we have. And this was from something at work and talking about a different article. And then here's that CAD article I talked about. And if you go down, you're going to see handwritten text and annotation text right by each other. I don't know about you all, but I think that is really cool, because what you're doing by using this function is thinking in the moment. So I don't want to save that. So you're thinking in the moment. So no matter where you're going from, whether you're handwriting something or pulling text from the web or taking a picture and OCRing it with the mobile app, no matter what you're doing with it, you are getting in the moment. So you may not be ready right now to add any annotations. Maybe you're just doing that first pass and you're just saying, okay, here are the things that I want to have in my digest. So you're in the collection phase first. So all you're doing is highlighting and saying send to digest. Now, once you've got all of those things collected, instead of having to leaf back through the book or the larger PDF, and you can do that, and for context, you might at some point. But what's cool about it is now I can go back in and I can add. So I can add text right here. On the device, I can go in and I can handwrite more things. And that's just extremely powerful because it all lives with the digest entry. So maybe I create digest in multiple ways. The idea first is that collection container. What am I sending to this particular container? And then I annotate all of that. Okay, here are all of the things that I'm thinking. Now I go in and I start to create a note. And as I'm writing, I can insert those digest entries. And when you insert those digest entries to a note, now what's really awesome about this from within the note is I can drop in those digest entries we talked about earlier. And now I can open that up, see it right here, and then I can go directly. I can change the category. I can see all the handwritten components, and then I can add to it right from here. So if I go to text, I can actually be within my note annotating as I go. Pretty cool. So I can do that. Of course, if I'm on the device, I have to go to a separate screen, but maybe that's where their split screen functionality will come in. But right now, I could actually sit here and take typed notes if I wanted to. So pretty neat when you look at that and how they've enabled that functionality. And then of course, if I had any headings in this note, I could do that. If I keyword, if I star, all of that same functionality then works here. And then I can see my pages as well. So pretty cool. Like I said, I'll blur out some things because I don't want you all to see everything that I'm doing. But it's such a great functionality. Well, anyway, that's it on the web interface of the digest. Just wanted to show you that and kind of show you how that works. It's an amazing functionality. It is completely different than the books approach, which is also a really good approach of the split screen and one note tied to a specific source. The difference is basically this flips the script and you can have a note tied to specific sources. So you could have 20 digest entries coming into one note from 20 different PDFs or from 5 different PDFs just spread throughout the PDF. And then when you would go back, you will be able to read that PDF or that source.